Hello everyone, my name is Naguura and today I will be talking about Moonkin in 10.1. This will not be a full guide, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try to keep this as short of a video as possible. I'm mainly talking about the changes and I'm going over like the main things on how you're supposed to play Moonkin, but I'm not going to go into like all of the like basic things, alright? This is supposed to be more of a detailed guide on like the main changes. First of all, I do also want to say that this guide is more of a video guide for people that don't understand like the compendium that much, because we Moonkin players, we are super lucky to have very great theory crafters that create awesome written guides for us. So you should definitely join the Druid Discord, the Dream Grove, and you should definitely read the compendium that I will be linking in the description below and look at that information. It's always going to be the most accurate. It's always going to be the most up-to-date information. Definitely go and do that. But of course, if you need a more visual guide and you want somebody to explain it to you, then this is what this video is for. But I don't have any like other or different information than what you guys can access as well through the compendium. First of all, I'm going to talk about the talents a little bit. So these are the full single target talents. The main thing to mention here is that we're not running Stellar Flare anymore for basically anything. We're almost always playing just Wild Surges. But people always ask, but how do you keep up Waning Twilight? Well, we keep it up with Astral Smolder. Astral Smolder was changed a little bit. There's a much longer duration. It's 8 seconds now. So you basically always have this up. Or not always, but like a lot of the times. So your Waning has a really high uptime just from your Rafts and your Starfires critting and leaving Astral Smolder behind. Other than that, we do play Friend of the Fae Denizens. That was something that we played before, but it's mainly because it was buffed a little bit that we play it now all of the time. We also play Radiant Moonlight just because Fear of Elune is so strong, and we mainly play Rattle on single target, but you can also play Star Weaver on single target as well if you like it more. If you feel like you need more globals for movement, you can play Star Weaver as well. Or if you ever feel like you need an in-between build, like if you want single target but also a little bit of AoE, or you want AoE but also a little bit of single target, then you can always play Weaver as like a hybrid kind of talent build for both AoE and single target a little bit. Now keep in mind, if you pick up Star Weaver, you do have to also play with Starfall, and you can also play with Ethereal Kindling to benefit of the dot extension as well. Now, we also play with a Warrior of Elune, and the way you play with that I will explain in a little bit. Now, if you play M+, or most AoE scenarios, then what you do is you of course pick up Starfall and Kindling, and you get rid of both Nature's Balance and Warrior of Elune. And that is what you can play in Plus, and that is also what you can play in like a raiding environment wherever you do need Starfall and Kindling. Keep in mind you can still just pick up Weaver here in the same scenario. Now, mushrooms are not something that you usually pick up. You can play them if you want. The main reason you don't pick it up anymore is because you get the uptime on Waning from your Smolder procs anyway, and you just have more time. You just press more Starfires. It's a really good Astral Power generator, the way they changed it, so you get a lot of Astral Power from just casting Starfires. Of course, if you want burst damage, burst AoE for anything, you can try to play mushrooms if you want. But most people are sticking to this build for now. This can, of course, change in the future. All right, so these are the talents. One thing that I do want to mention one more time, is because so many people don't understand this, is our mastery. Okay, please pay attention. Our mastery. Your nature spells deal 33% additional damage to targets afflicted by Sunfire, and your arcane spells deal 33% additional damage to targets afflicted by Moonfire. Now, 33% is a big number. 33% more damage with both nature and arcane spells. Now, keep in mind that our astral spells are nature and arcane combined, which means the benefit of both of these buffs, which means our Starfall and our Star Surge and any other astral damage does 66% increased damage to targets that have both Sunfire and Moonfire. That's an insane number, okay? People need to remember just how important it is to keep up our dots. I think that's one of the most common issues that I see, that people don't put their dots up on targets, either not fast enough or they don't value them as highly. People always think about Waning Twilight as if it's the most important thing in the world, where they're like, oh my god, how do I get Waning up? But Waning is only 8% more damage in comparison to our mastery being like 60% or more, depending on how much mastery you have. So dots, very important. Put them up. Of course, if targets die within like a couple of seconds, then it's not worth it to put them up. But as soon as they live a decent amount of time, put up your dots and keep them up. Very, very important. One more thing that changed between the Season 1 and Season 2 is that we enter Solar Eclipse now on single target and we cast Wrath. So no more Lunar Wrath, we go Solar Eclipse and cast Wrath. On 2 targets, we also go Solar Eclipse and cast Wrath. And on 3 targets, we go Lunar Eclipse and cast Starfire. Now there's one little bit of a weird thing, and I'm going to explain it, but it's not like super important, so don't lose your mind over it. If there's 3 targets and we are in Incarnation, then we cast Wrath still. But if we're only in Lunar Eclipse on 3 targets, then we cast Starfire. But don't, lose your mind. It's whatever. So Solar Eclipse, Wrath on 1 to 2 targets, Lunar Eclipse, Starfire on 3 or more targets, and Incarnation on 3 targets is still Wrath. Alright, then let's quickly talk about canceling. I'm sorry I have to mention this. Skip this part if you don't want to do any kind of cancel aura, macros, just skip this part. But unfortunately in 10.1 it's a little bit more important to do canceling, so I'm going to mention this. Alright, so you want to cancel Star-Lord in almost any scenario where your Star-Lord only has 2 seconds left or less, and you're about to Star Search because you have high astral power and you're just about to Star Search, right? Of course, you're not going to be canceling Star-Lord on 2 seconds if you're not going to Star Search, all right? So don't cancel your Star-Lord at 2 seconds always. Only cancel your Star-Lord if it's 2 seconds or less and you're about to Star Search. Then you cancel it, all right? Every time. So every time you Star Search, look at your Star-Lord, see, 2 seconds left, cancel, all right? That's it. Then let's talk about canceling Pulsar. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry about this. But we're canceling a lot. All right, Pulsar. On single target, we're actually canceling our Pulsar 1 time. The reason why we do this is because we want to align our Fury Balloon with subsequent Pulsar procs for the rest of the fight. So the way you cancel it is by, on your opener, you want to cancel your Pulsar between 120 and like 200 stacks approximately, but it depends on your haste, and it's going to be a little bit different for you depending on what your haste level is. So I recommend testing this. If you're progressing a fight, you can test it on different kinds of Pulsar stacks, or you can test it on a dummy as well to get a little bit of a feeling, but keep in mind in the raid you might have more haste because of Bloodlust. So you do your opener completely normally, and then at like 120 to 200 stacks, you just cancel your Pulsar 1 time. You just remove your Canic Pulsar stack, so you make a macro. You cancel it, and then your Fury Balloon should line up with all of your Pulsar procs from there on out. If it doesn't, then you might be canceling it at the wrong time. You might have to cancel your Pulsar a bit earlier or a bit later. Or also keep in mind if there's any kind of downtime on the boss fight. So if there's like downtime where you have to move a lot or where you cannot attack the boss, or if there's like a time where you have to dot other targets or Starfall or whatever, then it's not worth it because at that point it's not lining up anymore, right? This is only worth it if it's a full single target fight and you always kind of do the same thing, and canceling your Pulsar will result in your Fury Balloon lining up with subsequent Pulsar procs for the rest of the fight. If that is not true, if there's variables, if you do different things, if there's downtime, then this is not worth it. All right, so I just wanted to mention it. Do this or don't do it, up to you. All right, now let's talk about Warrior Balloon. Warrior Balloon is only there to proc your Solar Eclipse, basically. So on full single target, you pick up Warrior Balloon, but you don't necessarily use it except to proc your Solar Eclipse, because you have to cast 2 Starfires to proc Solar Eclipse, right? So you don't use this during Incarnation or Lunar Eclipse unless you need to move. So if it's already up and you need to move, you press it, right? Otherwise, you don't use it there. You only use it to enter your Solar Eclipse. Once you enter Solar Eclipse with your Warrior Balloon, you will have 1 stack left, because there's 3 stacks and you only need 2 to enter. If that happens, if you're in Solar Eclipse already and you have 1 stack left, you don't use it, you cancel it, all right? You make a cancel or a macro and you cancel the last stack. The easiest way that I found doing this is by actually making a macro. And the way you press this is you press it once to cast it, then you use your 2 Starfires to enter, and then you press the same keybind again, the same macro, to cancel it. Just keep in mind that if you're fat fingering, like if you press it multiple times, then it might cancel all 3 of your stacks. So keep that in mind, right? This helps you to save one keybind, because otherwise you would have to make an extra keybind for it. Now, let's talk a little bit about gear. When it comes to playstyle, I think I mentioned most things. Of course, we star search on single target, starfall on 2 or more targets still. We proc our pulsar with star search unless you have a starfall weaver proc. Then you proc it with starfall. Yeah, I think that's most. Let's talk about gear. Your spark should be used to craft slimy boots. The reason why is because the proc scales with item level. So the slimy expulsion boots, you should craft those, or you can also cast the toxic foot wraps. But I personally think slimy expulsion boots are just better because the toxic foot wraps do damage to you, and they sometimes heal as well. So I just prefer the slimy expulsion boots, but you can also craft the toxic foot wraps if you want. Then you want to craft the toxic patch. But because we only have one spark, you, of course, want this on an old spark item. Now, if you get another spark, if you have more than one spark, because you're watching this like later, then I would recommend either crafting the toxic patch item, or you craft a weapon if you don't have like a higher item level weapon already. All right, so weapon as like your second spark item, or your toxic patch item on higher item level. Right, then for the rest of the items, of course you want the new 4 set, but keep in mind you should sim it, because depending on the item level of your old 4 set and your new 4 set, you might still want to have your old set equipped if your new one is not super high item level, because they recently buffed the old set. Then for trinkets, Icon is still very good. The class trinket is very good. So beacon is pretty good actually for many situations. So beacon is something you can pick up if you want. Ominous chromatic essence, very good trinkets, especially if multiple people have it in your group or in your raid. Vessel of Searing Shadow, pretty good. Even the Flow Stone is pretty good. I know a lot of raiding trinkets are just pretty good. Black Dragon Scale, also not a bad trinket. So basically almost every trinket that drops in a raid is good. Make sure you sim it. Sim top gear always, because it depends on your gear, depends on your item level, depends on your stats. So definitely always sim it to make sure. And when it comes to plus items, one of the better and plus trinkets is the Spoils, which drops in Naltharis. Spoils of Naltharis is a very good trinket for us. And outside of that, most trinkets are just not as good as the raiding trinkets. Nirax's Back Tongue is also not that bad. That is something you could pick up. And Iridius Fragment can also be pretty good if you need like more burst or something, because Moonkin's burst is pretty meh. So you can play this trinket if you need like more damage every 3 minutes or something like that, then this could also be an option. Alright, so that's about trinkets. And then I quickly just want to mention which items you should be upgrading with your crest, because a lot of people are a bit confused about that. Each upgrade costs 1 crest, no matter what item it is. This is important info because certain upgrades are much more valuable than other upgrades. For example, upgrading a 2-hand weapon costs 1 crest per upgrade. But if you want to upgrade 1-hand and an offhand, then they cost 2. So you actually pay a lot less crest for upgrading a 2-hand weapon compared to a 1-hand weapon. And you also get a lot more value from your helmet, legs, and chest. Helm, legs, and chest are the highest value when it comes to upgrades outside of trinkets and weapons. So you should always upgrade those first. Keep in mind as well that even if you don't have tier set yet, let's say you have your old tier set still, but you have an offset chest. Upgrading a chest will, of course, make any subsequent upgrades on the same slot not cost any crests. Right? If you don't know how the crest system works, or if you don't know about the free upgrades, make sure you watch my old videos on my channel. I talked about this on my videos. But yeah, there's no like wasted upgrades. Even if you get tier later, you will be able to upgrade the tier for free to the same item level that you upgraded the other non-tier item to. Alright, then when it comes to value, weapon, 2-hand better than 1-hand for upgrading, then chest, legs, and head are the most valuable non-weapon, non-trinket slot. And then it's shoulders, gloves, and belt. So shoulders, gloves, and belt are the next like best upgrade or most valuable upgrade. Then it's ring, and then it's cloak, wrist, and then it's neck. Alright, so that's all I have for now for this video. I'm sorry, I wanted to make a short video and then it was longer after all. I'm sorry. If you have any questions, definitely ask in the description below in the comments. And just join my stream, come over to twitch.tv/Naguura, ask me anything you want. I'm happy to answer any questions about Moonkin, but keep in mind, again, joining the Dream Growth Discord and reading the companion is definitely going to help you out a little bit. So yeah, I hope this video helped you, and I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.